We're ready whenever you are.
You know what the worst thing would have been?
Thank you.
What's that?
If Patrick took it.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Fall River Housing Authority meeting. It is Monday, January 8th, and it is 4:40 PM. Attorney Souza, the open meeting law, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The language for the open meeting law is as follows. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible.
Thank you. Martha, roll call.
Chairman Sahadi,
Here.
Vice Chairman Underhill,
Here.
Commissioner Burns,
Here.
Commissioner Bentley,
Present.
Commissioner Maderas.
Here.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is citizens' input. Do we have anyone to speak? Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you give us your name and your address for the record, please?
My name is Patrick Jolly. I'm the president of Bristol County Civil Process Inc., with a corporate office at 126 Preston Ave in the city. I'd like to speak to you tonight regarding agenda item D, the recommendation of a 2-year contract for Stephen P. Maderas. December 26th, the Housing Authority received 2 bids. Highest bid being from Bristol County Civil Process Inc., and the lowest bid being from your current vendor, Stephen Maderas, which in this case, the lowest bid was 44% less than the highest bid, as well as $11,000 less than the proposed amount of the Housing Authority saw fit. Over the last 15 years, Bristol County Civil Process has held the contract for the Housing Authority for Constable Services on and off a number of times. Being that said, as president, I have firsthand knowledge of the minor profit margins that is to be had with this contract. Due to the strict requirements for insurance that limit the liability to the Housing Authority, this raised a red flag with me. I have submitted Freedom of Information Act requests to the Housing Authority as well as the City of Fall River, which I have supplied the board earlier today, both in email and hard copies. A number of the public record searches were also supplied that were done on the state's website. As of this afternoon, I am unable to confirm your current vendor has workers' compensation. Also, your current vendor is invoicing the Housing Authority as a business other than which he holds as contract. This business is not registered with the Secretary of State or indicated on any bid awards. During a review of his invoices, I noticed some discrepancies. These discrepancies would have gone unnoticed unless someone knew what they were looking for. I took 4 of these discrepancies at random and went to the Fall River Housing Court this morning and reviewed the case files. In each case, your vendor had made claims of service performed on the defendants as last and usual service. However, only invoiced the Housing Authority for 1 mailing. He also filed an affidavit with the Housing Court stating that he served them last and usual, but on his account breakdown, there's only a monetary value of 1 mailing. State law requires each defendant to be mailed their own individual copy. If this was not done properly, the Housing Authority runs a risk of having these cases dismissed. I understand that it's the financial best interest of the Housing Authority to give a bid to the lowest bidder, but I would argue in this case the liability that your current vendor has exposed the Housing Authority exceeds any savings that this bid would be to give to him. It should also be noted as of this afternoon, I'm still unable to confirm, because the 10 days doesn't expire until tomorrow. Your vendor has general liability insurance for the years that I requested. Your vendor has $1 million liability and collision, all vehicles used to perform his services. Your vendor has completed the workman's compensation requirements, and if your vendor is in compliance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 59A. I would ask the board to take this evidence into consideration and place a monetary value to the exposure your current vendor has placed over the last 4 years. After doing so, it's clear that Bristol County Civil Process is in fact the true lowest bidder, which is why I'm asking the board to not give that bid to that individual and give it to my company. I'll be here for the remainder of the meeting, should you have any questions or need clarification.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is residents' input. I didn't see you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay. The tenant council currently is running elections in all of its high rises. We completed 2, O'Brien and Mitchell are done, and, excuse me, 3. Mitchell, O'Brien, and Hewlin are completed. We'll be conducting in January Holmes and Baresi, and in February, we will be doing Cattell and Cardinal. County Council is going to hold its annual meeting February 28th, at which point we will invite Kevin and Tim to attend.
Perfect.
Only anything else, and our farmers market is still going extremely well, to let everyone know.
Great.
It didn't hold up its 10 on December 29th.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Item 2 is the minutes of the regular meeting held on December 11th, 2023, and the executive session minutes from August 14, 2023, regular meeting, the September 11th, 2023 regular meeting, and the October 16th, 2023 postponed regular meeting. Covers the periods from September of 2023 through December of 2023. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented in your packet?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 3 is bills and communications. You have the vouchers in your packet. Do I have a motion to accept the vouchers?
Motion to accept the vouchers.
Thank you, Jack.
Second.
Any questions or concerns with regard to the vouchers? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item 4 are your management reports. The 8 reports are included in your packet. 1 is the applications. 2 is the occupancy reports. 3 is the tenant accounts receivable report. 4 is the work order report. 5 is the monthly Section 8 voucher activity report. 6 is the monthly personnel count report. 7 is the Director of Modernization's monthly report. And the 8th is the bank investment and bond debt balance reports. Do I have a motion to accept these reports?
I'll make a motion to accept the management reports.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions with regard to these reports? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 5 is the financial reports. You have in front of you the 8 months ended November 30th, 2023. These are the operating statements that are the individual and the consolidated statements. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve financial reports.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? No questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 6 is an update from our executive director.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Happy New Year, everyone. We're all a little sick, but nonetheless, it's the new year. Just a few things I wanted to touch on. Importantly, our HUD audit that was due December 31st, we did submit on time. That's the second year in a row now. As you remember, a year plus ago, we were late with our unaudited, and that we submitted a corrective action plan for that, and we've since been timely with our submissions. So I'm happy to report on that. Effective January 16th, we will be relocating our management and clerical staff, management first and probably clerical a week or two after that. This is a practice that the Housing Authority used to routinely do. We probably did it a few years ago. And it's just a good way to better improve and better familiarize our management staff with our sites. Typically, you have half the staff that welcome the change they need a change, they're burnt out at the locations they're assigned to. And then typically, as human nature has it, you have half that resist the change. But overall, I think it is best for the Housing Authority. It makes for a more well-rounded manager and clerical staff. They get familiar with the different resident populations, whether it be the elderly, the family, the mixed pop, and they get more familiarized with the different locations. So, again, you may hear some grumblings, but I think after it's all said and done, it's always better for the Housing Authority to have staff that are familiar with all our sites. I will also be submitting an application to EOHLC, formerly DHCD. They're awarding grants to housing authorities for resident service coordinators. So if we're awarded grant money for this, we can temporarily hire coordinators to assist our elderly and our disabled residents with services, kind of like our full-time staff that we have in-house, but this is additional funding and we would be able to hire more. So I'll be submitting that application on behalf of the Housing Authority. Just a few of the goals that I want to mention going into 2024. We will continue to strive to improve customer service, as I've mentioned since I became the executive director, and all of the directors and the departments have been doing a good job with that to improve upon that. We'll continue to make vacant units ready in 29 days or less. Credit to our facilities department. And we will also continue to try to lease up ready units in 29 days or less through our management and tenant selection departments. And we've been doing pretty good with that. We'll continue through our legal department and our management department to be aggressive with our tenants' accounts receivable, whether it be by formal court agreements or in-house agreements made, just to stay on top of our residents that have a history of falling behind. And just to leave you with, currently, our state occupancy rate is 99%, and our federal is 98%. So we're almost, but there's always people moving out, and there's some units that are waived for different reasons. So those are just a few of the goals that we'll continue to try to improve upon and maintain going into the new year. And that's all I have.
Anyone have any questions?
Just real quick to the executive director, customer service. I want to tell you from my perspective as a board member, you're doing something right, because I used to get plenty of complaints. So I appreciate what you're doing. It's obviously working, so I'd love to see you continue what you're doing. Occupancy is up across the board. That is important. This turnover process, very important. I appreciate it. Thank you. The only question I do have on your report was in regards to your decision for relocation. There's value in that. I understand it. I understand it in my own profession. I wonder if there's anything preventing you from doing that. Any labor agreements? Is this, something that the Housing Authority has done in the past?
So first, thank you for the compliment, but I have to share that with all the department heads. I could never do that by myself. It's with Tim and our council and all the directors out there. So thank you for that, and we'll keep working hard at that. As far as the relocation, no, there is nothing in the collective bargaining agreement that prevents us from doing that. There is no job description currently that they're permanent in one location. So obviously, if if there were issues with that, it would be a little different. It is something that we used to routinely do when I was a manager. It hasn't been done in a few years, so you probably have not heard much about it. But again, as we do more often with our facilities staff and moving them around to the different locations, they get familiar with the mechanical systems of the buildings, the layout. So it does assist with the fire department, the police department. And same thing for our management department. We want them to know the total resident population, not just families, not just elderly, not just disabled, and the layout and the locations of our buildings. So I think no matter what profession you're in or what you're doing, when you do multiple things, it makes you more rounded in your particular position versus just doing the same thing all the time in one location. So, but I think the core of your question, is there any violation of the agreement? And there is not.
Perfect. That's what I was looking for. I mean, I understand that change of stuff. We all go through that.
Exactly, yeah.
But there's no violation.
Right.
It might make people uncomfortable, and I understand that.
Right.
But you're doing the best for the housing authority, and I see that in some of the other percentages that you're doing, so I trust in what you're doing. And so I just want to make sure that there was nothing preventing that type of move, that's all. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item is modernization. A is the certificate of substantial completion for the crawl space ventilation project at Sunset Hill.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item 2, miscellaneous. A is the Forever Housing Authority 2024-2025 agency plan certifications. It's a 5-year annual plan. It will be executed by myself and the director, with certification by the state and local officials of the PHA's plan, consistency with the consolidated plan executed by the mayor, for submission to HUD and EOHLC, which, as you know, is formerly DHCD, for fiscal year 2024 annual plan for the submission, again, for EOHLC, which is DHCD. Do I have a motion to approve the agency plan?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item B is the open meeting law complaint, which was filed by Patrick Higgins on December 11th, 2023, in reference to the November 13th, 2023 regular board meeting. The recommended action here is to have our general counsel review the initial response, requesting an extension for the board to meet beyond the statutory 14-day meeting requirement, and also to review the AG's approval, and third, to designate, or we are designating, the general counsel to respond to this complaint. So what we need here is a motion to designate, in addition to 1 and 2, Attorney Souza to respond for us.
I'll make a motion to review the actions and also designate the general counsel to respond to the complaint.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item C is the independent audit service contract. The recommended action here is to award a 2-year contract to Markham for independent auditing services and the AUP filing, that's agreed upon procedures filing, and the amount not to exceed $93,500.
Motion to award a 2-year contract to Markham for not to exceed $93,500.
Second.
Martha, can you do a roll call on this one for me, please?
Commissioner Maderas?
Yes.
Commissioner Underhill?
Yes.
Commissioner Burns?
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley?
Yes.
Chairwoman Sahadi?
Abstain. Item D is the constable service contract. It's for the period February 1, 2024 to January 31, 2026. The recommended action is a two-year plan, or a two-year contract to Stephen P. Maderas in the amount of $29,000. Do,
So we got to get a motion to put it on the floor, right? And then we can
Yes,
ask
please.
questions? Yeah, so I'll put a motion to put it on the floor.
thank you,
Second.
thank you. Mr. McCoy, can you give us a little bit of background?
Sure. Do you
Or
generally, or do we want to start with a specific question, or just general response, so to
I
speak?
certainly wouldn't mind your response.
Sure.
The citizens input, put a few
So-
questions forward, and whatever you have.
So what I can say, I'm going to shift my hat to procurement officer. So as was stated by Constable and firefighter Duddy, it was advertised, open publicly. I had both vendors who chose to respond in my office. Sometimes we'll go in a boardroom or whatever. So as you can imagine, sometimes we have folks where nobody shows up, so, but technically open publicly, both gentlemen came, submitted timely. So again, I would consider them responsive, bid was signed, things of that nature. I publicly report the low to them, but say, obviously I don't award at this point, the apparent low. We had two bids, $65,000 and $29,000, 29 being for the existing constable, which is also an important piece of this. Mr. Duddy's accurate. Over the course of, I guess, the last 15 years, various companies and individuals have had it. Whether it be Mr. Maderas, Mr. Duddy, there was a time, I believe, we had Mr. Avila for years, maybe others also. So I gave the documents over to General Counsel, and I said, Mike, you folks, you and other members of the legal department are dealing with the current constable. He's the low. Take a look at what we have here. In response to some of the accusations, there is currently a liability policy in place with the contract, which is over at our facilities. Bill, that's where I keep all the bound contracts physically. We have an active W-9 from the IRS. The General Counsel and the CFO collaborated on that particular issue. We haven't, I didn't receive, or I have not received any complaints from internal employees as far as professionalism or any sort of aspect in what constables do in a variety of different services for us. The one issue that I guess would be lingering is apparently General Counsel believes that there may be a workers' comp issue. Now, I admit, just from a layman's perspective, for the life of me, I'm not sure why a sole practitioner would have to get workers' comp for himself. I'm really not sure. But in looking at the best interest of the authority, it would seem like that's something that could easily be cured by the time we get to February 1st. Just have the individual, show him whatever might be in the general statutes or CMRs or whatever, and say, you have to secure workers' comp additionally. And again, sticking with that procurement officer hat, it would seem to me that the appropriate venue to challenge something like this, while construction still has bid protests with the Attorney General, the IG's office no longer handles 30B protests internally. They advise any aggrieved party, whether sincerely or perceived, to go to court. Which venue that would be, I can't speak to that, whether it's district court or superior court. And I would just, my instincts are telling me that even in a court of law, the ruling may not be go to the next bidder. It may very well be rebid the whole thing. So for us to, today, just to throw out the low, what appears to be a responsive and responsible, and I'm going by the feedback I'm getting from the legal department, to throw that out and then to award the next bidder, I don't necessarily think would be the proper procedure and the proper manner to handle this. Now, moving to the deputy director side of me, and again, not being a practicing attorney, but again, I would think it would be incumbent on the party who feels aggrieved to challenge it, and I don't see how we're violating any public trust, and again, acting in good faith and what's in the best interest of the Fall River Housing Authority to ensure in fact that a sole proprietor does need workers' comp and allow that sole proprietor to obtain the workers' comp, I don't think is putting any undue burden or stress on anybody. And for some reason, you know, that low bidder at that point says, I don't think that's right, this and that, whatever, and it's in violation of a reg, then we internally would move on doing, you know, something else at that point. But I don't see how we're not acting in good faith by awarding this tonight, subsequent to Michael, you know, ensuring that the workers' comp is in fact valid and moving on from there. Because again, I also, again, in the deputy director role here, to me, it would seem like the low bidder who's had a relationship with the legal department, and the legal department had no objection with this 2-year award again, would also have potentially an action against this board for not awarding him, where he has dutifully and in good faith responded to our public solicitation. So that's kind of my general thoughts coming from both sides of the matter. I don't know if I can entertain anything more specific than that, but my recommendation is to award the 2-year contract.
If I could ask a question. So if I'm understanding this correctly, based on the comments from Mr. Duddy earlier, workman's comp, is that the only concern that we have to worry about?
We have the W-9 IRS filing that's in good standing. CFO and Michael collaborated on that. And my purchasing agent over at 201 Eddy Street confirmed to Michael that we have an active insurance policy.
We have an active general liability insurance policy that goes through March of 2024 and an active automobile insurance policy. She couldn't find the workers' compensation policy yet, so I don't know.
And again, we weren't even aware that a sole practitioner would be required to have the workers' comp. So again, if in fact, I'm not trying to speak for Michael, but if Michael gets to that determination, again, I don't see how we're doing anything nefarious if the individual's got liability insurance and auto insurance, also now goes to their agent and seeks workers' comp insurance, where we would be doing anything untoward or out of sorts or just unfair or in violation of public bidding. Again, the proper venue would be more of, again, a court of law, because as I said, the IG's office doesn't even deal with bid protest internally anymore. The AG would do any sort of a bid protest regarding construction. You have to file like a $200 fee, and it goes through the attorneys there, you know. But again, that would be for building a road construction and not a 30B supplier service contract, where this is a non-construction service contract. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little.
Aren't we all?
Were all documents that were required to be submitted with bids?
Yeah,
So the workman's comp policy.
Was the
wasn't
workman's comp
included.
one of the items that was required?
workers' comp, I don't even believe we were aware that a sole
Well, it said
practitioner.
workers' comp. If you have employees, workers' comp is required, but this is allegedly a sole practitioner. So we didn't realize that we would have needed workers' comp. So if we do need it, I have to get that from him for the contract that commences February 1st. And the other thing that I would credit Constable Duddy with would be the fact that he went through, I gave him this was part of a public information request, and I gave him with the finance director. We went through all the invoices last week, and I scanned everything and sent them over to him. He found 4 discrepancies, which concerned me, because there were, when you do an individual service, you're also supposed to do a mailing, and he was mailing 3 notices in one. That's not correct. He's right. We could suffer consequences for that, and I'll make sure that I discuss that with the constable. But other than that, he has supplied everything aside from what I know about the workers' comp.
You know, if I may say too, that the, granted your larger construction bids, I mean, a lot of times you're getting your bonding and whatnot. Oftentimes at the time of the bid, I mean, there are times where you have a non-construction service where, if you don't get insurance documentation, you don't get award, but you can, if you have 8 or 9 bidders on supply stuff or whatever, I mean, typically you're only going back to the low bidder that you're going to award, and there's obviously, you just don't execute the contract if you don't get the liability policy,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Mr. Duddy mentioned that he was waiting for one more thing to come in, and 10 days is up tomorrow?
Well, he's waiting for the workers' comp insurance.
Oh, for the
He's waiting
workers'
for
comp.
the general liability and the automobile insurance.
Okay.
As well as City of Fall Rivers, show that he's in compliance with state law.
I know that there was also submitted a City of Fall River Constable certificate, from City Hall, signed by the current mayor. So it's kind of like, almost looks like a ceremonial type thing, but it looks like,
Well, please, I can clarify what I mean by state law.
Can you come back up to the table, please? Thank you.
Was this in regard to the Chapter 41, Section
It is,
16?
yep.
Okay.
I believe there's a breakdown that was sent to everyone's back emails earlier today. So Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, Section 95A, requires you to pay 25% of a base service fee back to the city or town that you're appointed in. So in this case, it would apply to Florida. Statute requires that $5 for every summary process be paid back to the city of Florida quarterly. They have the right up until, I think it's $300 to go down to the $15. I submitted a request with the city to see if these payments have been made. I haven't received it yet. They have until tomorrow to close of business to supply it. Using calculations for the last 11 months, in that packet that was emailed, there's a breakdown of what he would owe. It's $955 just for the summary process and the supplementary processes. The reason why I bring that up is by law, he's required to do it. If not, they can suspend his license. And which is another reason why the red flag was raised, because also submitted is a breakdown of the bid sheet minus what's required by statute to pay. This gentleman will be doing services in the negative. He would physically be serving the paper for the housing authority for a negative $3 every time he goes out that door. Again, being the president of that corporation for 15 years, I know what it means to bid on the project. And this is not sustainable, the way it is now. And the way, even now, if he's complying with the state law, even now he's serving stuff at a negative.
Mr. Duddy, what department do you deal with what department is he supposed to pay the $955?
You send the check right to the clerk's office, and they forward it to wherever it needs to go.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just to clarify, Madam Chair, as identified by Deputy Director McCoy, Mr. Duddy is a firefighter. I'm a firefighter. Is there any conflict with me being involved in this discussion or having questions or anything like that? I'm not benefiting from this contract, so I'm wondering if there's any conflict of interest.
I would say no, but Attorney Souza?
I would say no.
I can actually clarify that too for you. Because Mr. Avila filed a Superior Court lawsuit, I'm sure you're aware, to protest a bid that I won a few years ago. It's not Patrick Duddy that's bidding on this. It's Bristol County Civil Process Act. The judge ruled in my favor, as well as Attorney Souza knows. So this has nothing to do with Patrick Duddy. I'm just the president and spokesperson.
Which is fine. So then I just wanted to jump in on a few questions, that's all.
Please.
As Director McCoy noted, it's not appropriate to rebid or award it to the next lowest bidder. I don't think anybody suggested that, right? So that wasn't an accurate comment. I don't know the laws like Attorney Souza or Constable Duddy. I don't know that stuff. So I would bring forth to you that I think it's inappropriate to award a bid and say, by the way, please show us what you're supposed to do anyway. I would prefer that you bring that forward. If this gentleman's bid is lowest and he has all the requisite, certificates, it's his bid. He's got it. That's what we do. It's the lowest bid. It's government. I find it inappropriate to suggest that I'm going to bid it and then wait for requirements. And what I don't know is requirements, right? That's not my world. That's not what I, so unless somebody has different information than what was presented, as far as requirements, I couldn't vote for awarding it now and getting documents later. That's all, you know what I mean? I don't mind awarding the bid. He's the low bid. We've historically done it. I've done it for 7 years. But if he's not meeting his requirements, then I don't want to be on the hook for anything where someone's not meeting their requirements. And I would, so, long story short, I would ask to table it until we clarify information. That's all. And if he has all the requisite information and he's the lowest bid, we're going to look at Constable Duddy and say, thank you for your bid, but we're moving on. You know, that's how it works.
Could I clarify something? Just in response to, I wasn't insinuating, and if it came across that way, I apologize, that anybody on the board suggested to offer it to the next bidder. And if it came across that way, I apologize to go.
No
to the next
apologies
bidder.
needed. There's a lot of people listening, so I just wanted to make sure that wasn't the case.
$36,000 more, I apologize. I thought in citizens input, Mr. Duddy was suggesting throw out the first one and give it to me. I didn't hear a suggestion of table it or rebid it. So that's the impression.
Yeah.
That was the impression I was under. I thought you were asking for the award
I actually have a point
for
of
yourself.
clarification, if it's all right with the board as far as workman's comp. This individual is billing your housing authority with the name Minuteman Process Service. This is a company. This is not an individual. An individual does not need workman's comp. An individual is a company, and even has 1099 employees. If not one of those 1099 employees has workman's comp, he's required. The housing authority requires the individual from your bidder to be available Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 and respond within 1 hour. I can tell you the number of years that I've owned this business and had this contract, as well as being a state vendor, it's physically impossible to be somewhere Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 with 1 hour notice. We all hire, whether it's 1099 employees for my state work or employees directly from my corporation to fulfill our needs for contracts. I find it hard to believe that this individual has made every one of these services. And to be quite frank with you, after looking at the returns today in court, it's clear that he's fabricating the returns. So, if he's saying he's making every service, God bless him. But I can tell you, in my experience in the last 15 years, it's not practical. But that's where I'm talking about workman's comp. He's billing you as a business. Whether or not he's got a W-9, that's fine. But if he has a W-9 and he bid for Stephen P. Medeiros, you need to be getting invoice from Stephen P. Medeiros and cutting checks to that. Not whoever this Minuteman Process Service is, who's not registered with the Secretary of State. I don't know if that helps clarify why I'm asking for workman's comp.
We do have that name on the W-9. Yes. The Minuteman. So that's why the CFO cuts the check to the Minuteman.
Does the Minuteman Process Server hold the bid right now?
Stephen signs individually. So,
So that would be no.
well, you would sign for Bristol County Process too, because
Absolutely
it's
right.
always
If you look
the,
at my bid packet, it shows me signed Patrick Duddy, Bristol County Civil Process President. I'm asking, Minuteman Process Server, who is that?
that is Stephen Medeiros, according to the W-9.
Okay. Is it a corporation or an LLC?
That I couldn't tell you, sir.
Did he or did he not sign his bid proposal as Stephen P. Medeiros?
He signs his, yeah, and we always have an individual signature on a bid
On the
form.
behalf of, does anywhere on his current bid process, or this one just now, say Minuteman Process Service on it?
I'd have to look at the form again at the bottom. I'm not sure if he put it with his address at the bottom when we have the
Or that
address.
it does not.
I know his signature though, Stephen Medeiros.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this.
Good idea.
Second.
Third.
Do I have a second?
Fourth.
Thank you. All in favor to table this?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So to clarify as we go forward,
I'm sorry.
instead of just tabling, what are we looking for? From what I gather, is it true that the bidder, the lowest bidder, is required to have that workman's comp? Is that what we're looking for, the coverage that they have had? And I would also suggest that he's been ours for a little bit, right? Couple of years?
He is.
So did he have that coverage? Did he have that coverage? No. I'm not asking that answer right now. I'm saying before next meeting. That's something I would want to know. If he's done it the right way, then this conversation's over, right? If he hasn't, then I also think this conversation is over. So either way, it clarifies my decision.
I think too, Mike, is if we can clarify what type of business he is and operating under, because he could still be a Schedule C with a name of a company called Minuteman Processor, yet be a Schedule C and not be a corporation or an LLC. So it would be helpful to know what kind of entity he really is, because we're awarding this contract to him personally, not to Minuteman.
Correct.
Anybody else? Okay, next item on the agenda is the election of the officers for calendar year 2024.
Looking for a motion, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I make a motion for Mary Sahadi as chair.
I second.
Martha?
Was that Dave? I'm sorry, that seconded.
Yeah.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Underhill,
Yes.
Commissioner Maderas,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Chairwoman Sahadi.
Yes. Vice President or Vice Chair?
Make a motion for David Underhill.
Second.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Commissioner Maderas,
Yes.
Chairwoman Sahadi,
Yes. And last,
Commissioner Underhill.
Yes.
yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then the last position is the treasurer.
Yes.
I make a motion for Jason Burns.
Second.
Commissioner Underhill,
Yes.
Commissioner Maderas,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Commissioner, my head.
Burns.
I'm sorry.
Burns. Jason Burns.
Burns. I'm so sorry, my head is just,
Yes.
and Chairwoman
Yes,
Sahadi.
yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the support. Okay, that's the last item on the agenda. Do we have anything else coming before us? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.